Hi there, I'm Reggie. This is my first video. You may think I'm gay, but I'm not.
Which is true.
Shut up. So, yeah, get in your corner, scaredy cat. Yeah, he was scared of a rat. It's not a rat, it's a spider. But yeah, so we're going to be listening to 27 horror stories. We're not actually watching all of them, because then we'd be here for like 2 hours. But yeah.
Actually, you're wrong. It's about 1 hour and 28 minutes. Like from 1 hour and 30.
Okay, so yeah, we'll be doing that. We're not going to show his face, because he does not like being on camera. Yeah, he does have his own YouTube channel. You should go check that out. Yeah.
No.
You should.
No.
Okay. Okay, let's get away with this and just start the video.
It's happening again.
Shut up.
The words struggled to leave my mother's mouth as she stood, shaking in the kitchen. My brother, Jimmy, and I eyed her curiously. Before we could respond, my father stood up and asked her, "Are you sure?" His typically charismatic and whimsical tone now buried beneath a new voice built from panic and concern.
Yes, I'm sure.
She replied.
What's happening?
My father stood still for a moment in disbelief, whispered something to my mother, then turned to face us. "Boys, there's a man coming to town. You're going to see him."
Who's this man? Because I don't really want to watch this anymore. Because, like, if you know what scares me the most?
You're calling me!
No. This is the one that scares me the most. It's when women are, like, the killers. I don't know why, it just freaks me out. If it's a man, I'll be like, okay, that's fine. But it's the woman, like, they're scary. I don't know why. Don't call me sexist or anything, because I'm not Andrew Tate. Why am I? Oh, God.
I mean, Andrew Tate is a bit...
I'm gonna get demonetized because I said Andrew. But look, I don't know why they just creep me out with their long hair and they've just hair in the face. And oh my God, okay, let's just carry on.
Yeah, please.
Maybe in the street, maybe on a park bench, maybe even in the corner of your bedroom at night. I looked at my brother and was met with a mirrored reflection of confusion. We looked back to my father. "Listen to me, boys. No matter what he looks like this time, do not mention anything about his appearance."
God, no! Ads. Go back. Stop pushing me!
I'm not sure if my parents were losing their collective minds or if this was some sort of out-of-character joke they were playing. I spoke up, breaking the silence. "Dad, what are you talking about? Who's coming to town?" My father approached us. He placed one hand on Jimmy's shoulder and the other on mine. "I know this doesn't make a lot of sense, or any sense for that matter. But I need you both to be strong and mature for me, okay? If you see a man around town that looks different, promise me you will not say anything about how he looks. Not to me, not to your mom, not to each other or anyone. Not even a whisper.
I don't want to
Got
see
it?"
his face.
Jimmy and I looked to each other and then back to Dad. We nodded. The next few days proceeded like normal. We went to school, came home, and played outside with our friends. Mom and Dad never brought it up that night. For some reason, we never felt like bringing it back up to them. I went to bed that night content, not knowing that tomorrow would lead to the most horrific experience of my life. The school bus stopped at the corner. Jimmy and I raced home to drop off our backpacks and grabbed our baseball gear. We were meeting the other guys at the Diamond for a pickup game. The weather was perfect. I'll never forget that. Jimmy and I rode as fast as we could pedal down the street and onto the sidewalk. We arrived at the Diamond to find the other guys already waiting for us. We ditched our bikes and sprinted onto the field. When it was my turn to bat, I recited the words my dad had taught me. Hands back, eye on the ball, swing through the ball. I repeated my mantra as the ball came in. The second the bat made contact, I knew that I had crushed it. The ball soared into the sky to the depths of left field. Mike was fast, but even as the fastest kid on the block, he couldn't catch this one. He sprinted towards the ball as it came crashing back down to earth as I ran the bases. I grinned ear to ear as I rounded third to home. Then the cheers from my team ended abruptly as the world seemed to pause in silence. We all looked in unison toward left field. The baseball sat at the feet of a man, at least what resembled a man. Mike stood and stared, glancing back at us. We all inched closer for a better look. The thing that stood in the field wore a black suit jacket, black pants, and a top hat. But it wasn't a man at all. It was, in all respect, a balloon. Someone had tied together a series of balloons to create a sort of ballooned animal human being and dressed it in clothes. The bulbous yellow head was oversized, with red balloon eyes and a big blue grin. It had a green nose sticking out like a ripe cucumber, and what looked to be drawn-on ears. Mike burst out laughing, breaking the silence. A sound I'll never forget. He dropped to the grass and rolled in hysterics.
He's gonna get his face broken. He's a balloon, but his face is, he's gonna like pop all the balloons, and he's gonna turn into a real man, and he's gonna...
His nose kind of reminds me of Squidward's, eh?
Alright, Squidward. Okay, sorry, I have to cover up the whole camera with my hand. It's because bad quality. Sorry.
He got back up and stared at the balloon creature in its inflated eyeballs. Is this the man our parents have been so scared of? A fucking balloon? His roaring laughter continued. Despite it being very windy that day, the balloon man didn't even flinch. It just stood, grinning its blue grin. Mike poked the balloon man with his finger and jolted back, grabbing his finger in pain. Jimmy tugged me by the shirt. I think we should go home. I nodded in agreement. We rode home in silence. At dinner, we did not mention the incident. Tension filled the kitchen like our parents already knew. That night, a shrill scream filled the street and jolted me out of bed. I ran downstairs, Jimmy tailing behind me. My dad yelled for us to stay inside. We didn't listen. Mike's mom stood outside screaming and pacing the street. Lights from the neighboring houses turned on one by one until we saw. Mike's mother held something in her arms. The neighbors stood from their lawns and gasped when they saw. She was holding a balloon version of Mike. It was even wearing his clothes. She continued her screaming, demanding to know where her son was, pleading with the neighborhood. She dropped to her knees, squeezing balloon impersonation in her arms. The pop echoed throughout the street, and Mike's mother sat on the pavement.
There's no place like your home, so create a home that you love spending time in. You might...
Oh, God, that is weird. The bar.
I was living in California at the time. I was driving to my parents' house for the holidays. They lived in a different state than mine, so I had to drive there. On the way, I saw an old bar that had a sign saying free drinks inside. And you know, I'm not a very tall and structured woman. I'm more on the skinnier side, and I try not to go out too much. But I thought to myself, why not? I mean, I am thirsty. So I went inside the bar, and when I got inside, there weren't very many people there. Just one man sitting at one of the tables and the bartender. When I look back on this, I realized that the bartender and the guy were making mysterious glances at each other. As I walked up to the bartender, the man sitting at the table stood up. I glanced over at him, and he was staring at me straight in the eyes with a creepy smile plastered across his face. I asked the bartender what his problem was, and the bartender just innocently told me, I don't know, he just walked in right after you parked your car. and then it dawned on me. He only came in here because of me. I ran outside to check my car, but it was gone. I knew that the man who was sitting at the table stole my car. I ran back inside to tell the bartender, but when I got there, he had a look on his face like he already knew. As I started to gather all the information in my head, I realized that the bartender and the man sitting at the table were in on this together. Once I realized this, the man lunged towards me and had that creepy smile plastered across his face. I turned around and ran for my dear life. I was running what felt like for hours, but it was most likely minutes. I looked back and saw that he was just inches from me. I turned back and saw a police car, and to my luck, there was a police officer in the front seat. I started waving my hands frantically to get his attention, but to no luck, he was on his radio to another police officer. His face changed as he started to drive away. I turned around again to see if he was still following me, and he wasn't. I breathed a sigh of relief, but as soon as I turned around, both of them were standing in front of me with the same creepy smile. I started to run the other way, but now there was two of them. I ran for about 3 minutes more before he caught me and covered my mouth with the bartender's hand. They were dragging me back to my car, but I could hear the police sirens in the distance. The bartender pushed me onto the floor before running away. The police cars were seen in seconds. That was the last thing I remember from that night. I think I just blacked out. When I woke up, I was at my parents' house. There were police officers in the dining room speaking to my parents. I came in and the police officer started talking to me. He pretty much said that the men who stole my car escaped from a nearby mental institution. They were going to kidnap me and take my car, and then take me to an abandoned house that was near the bar. The policeman that was on the radio earlier was responding to a noise complaint in my parents' neighborhood. They never found the men at that bar, and I haven't been to a rundown bar ever since.
And then direct. From sportswear and fashion.
Look, why is your ad so bad?
Baby in abandoned house. Nah.
I'm Aksa. This incident happened when I was 12 years old. My parents were going out for dinner at a famous restaurant, and then we were planning to go to my uncle's house while I stayed with my best friend. Let's call her Karen. She was a very nice person. We planned to do many things, and we did watch movies and played video games. When we got bored, we decided to go to a nearby abandoned house, which was literally the worst thing we'd ever decided. Now, just for your information, it was a haunted house according to the rumors. The moment we entered, I had an eerie feeling and suggested Karen to leave the house ASAP, but she denied immediately. She was kinda an adventurous person. We suddenly found a map in the corner of the living room, which was weird, and it read go to the bathroom and go from the stairs. That's how you'll get to the room upstairs. Karen and I were literally so curious as to what was upstairs in that room. We went up there and saw a crying baby. We were startled when we thought that someone must have left him here all alone. Me and Karen went towards the baby, and Karen tried to pick him up, but when she did, a woman who was drooling from her mouth and remarkably had blue eyes jumped from nowhere and grabbed her hand and slapped her several times and stabbed her in the leg 3 times. I don't know why I couldn't move, but I tried my best and threw a glass bottle at her, which was right beside me. She was badly hurt and was crying like a baby. I grabbed Karen's hand, and we tried to escape from the house. But that maniac woman pushed me, and my head was literally bleeding.
Literally.
Karen grabbed me, and when we went out of the house and reached my house as fast as possible, we were sitting in the living room, if I remember correctly, when we heard the glass window break, and that mad woman was shouting and broke into our living room. Karen called the cops while I tried to walk with my broken head. The woman was shouting, "How dare you touch my baby?" And she was repeating it again and again. She pulled mine and Karen's hair and tried to pull us down, but Karen threw her phone at her, and we ran to my room. Cops came and fortunately caught the woman. Karen was badly hurt and unfortunately didn't survive.
She died.
I cried every day for her. My parents were there too. 2 weeks later, cops called me and said that the woman liked to collect dead bodies and that she never left people who tried to touch her child. I was scared but relaxed. It's been 4 years now, and thankfully nothing has
In the
happened.
window, ain't she? Hot. No, but it always happens. It always happens at the end.
All of us can suffer from dry skin. It can have an enormous impact on your quality of life. I personally recommend Cetraven cream.
No, the fight.
Hi, I'm Christy, and I'm 15 years old.
Finish this video, then we'll.
I'm more of a night person, so I pretty much stay up very late. This is why my sleep schedule is so messed up. I usually go to bed around 3 to 5 a.m. Sometimes I don't even sleep at all. But this experience changed everything for me. It was 4 a.m. one night when I was watching my favorite series. I just turned off the TV and went to bed. Suddenly, I started getting chills for no reason. I just brushed it off and thought it was just me being cold. But then, I started hearing very strange noises coming from my window, like a very slow tapping. I got scared, and I didn't want to check, so I just closed my eyes, thinking everything would just go away. But unfortunately, it didn't. It became louder and a bit faster. I just turned away from the window and hoped that everything would be over soon.
I'll jump out of it.
But suddenly, I felt a very heavy breathing in my ear. I got so scared, but I wouldn't even dare to open my eyes. I just pretended to be asleep. I started sweating heavily and trembling a bit too. I passed out right after. I woke up the next day thinking about everything that happened that night was just a dream. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my leg. When I looked down, I saw scratches all over him, as if a creature with sharp nails tried to claw me. I didn't bother telling my mom, because I knew that she wouldn't believe me even if I showed her the scratches. I didn't tell anyone about the incident, and when they asked about my leg, I would just tell them I accidentally fell off my bike. But I can't help but wonder, what was that thing that breathed in my ear? And what were those tapping noises? I still have no explanation for everything that happened, but one thing I know is that I won't go to bed late anymore. Some of you might not believe me, but that's okay. I wouldn't believe me either, but I can't help but wonder, what would have happened if I opened my eyes? Would I be dead?
Okay, guys, that's the end of the video. And I said 20 minutes. I mean, it's about to be 18 minutes. But that is my first video. Well, second, I think. But, yeah. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next.